The idea of what joy is, what happiness is, what meaning is, has to do with the contrast between your lowest point and your highest ascent. People that never face any challenges, the people that never face any grit, the people that never have any pain, it's only the pain that shows us that we're alive.
Where is that border? How do you feel that this is the edge and I have to push forward?
The way that you learn is you realize there's something that you don't know, and you humble yourself to someone that knows better. And it's that approach of the unknown, that edge of safety, as you called it, is where life is really lived. It's pushing the boundaries of your comfort, pushing the boundaries of pain, pushing the boundaries of knowledge to learn and to grow. That accelerates our life into a future that we can be proud of and we can live.
You could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here.
Hello everyone, today we're meeting Rick Walker. He is an entrepreneur, a speaker, and author of the upcoming book, 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning. Hello Rick, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So let's start a conversation by exploring your journey of becoming the person you are today. So, what have your experiences in life inspired you to write this book? And also, how did you navigate through those experiences to unfold this purpose in life that you have?
Well, what a great question. What a great way to start. I grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas, sort of down close by the Mexican border. I grew up in a two-bedroom house. My dad was out of work for a good portion of my childhood, but we made ends meet. He had a variety of random jobs that was able to put food on the table. Obviously, my mom worked as well. The thing that I wanted to take away from my childhood was that I realized what wasn't working for me. Like I saw my parents just work so hard to try to put food on the table, and I wanted something more than that. Not that they did anything wrong, not that it wasn't a wonderful upbringing. It was fantastic. I wanted to have something different than that. And so when I was in college, I started my first company, eventually grew that company. By the time I was 26 into 400 employees. I started another company, scaled it into 6 US states, took a nonprofit organization, scaled it into 50 countries with thousands of team members. I realized that if I wanted to do anything, I would not live forever. And I needed to act with urgency. And so I developed a set of principles around the concepts of urgency and working and meaning. And I really just put those to work in my 20s and my 30s. And now that I'm in my 40s, I have about 25 years of experience. I'm able to look back at that, reflect about that, and put all that into one work that I'm just now for the very first time sharing with the world about how to break out of the monotony, break out of the comfort, break out of the things in our life that hold us back, and take that next step into our future, into our purpose.
Yes, definitely. And I see that you've been through some challenges. And you mentioned one of the steps in your book that you have to experience sort of pain or challenge or discomfort in order to see the joy, see the purpose, see the happiness on the other side. So how does that concept really worked out for you? How did you embrace that principle in order to put it into your book and teach others?
So the idea of joy has to do not with comfort, not to deal with like a lack of challenges. Joy has to do with something even further and beyond that. The idea of what joy is, what happiness is, what meaning is, has to do with the contrast between your lowest point and your highest ascent. And so the deeper the tragedy, the deeper the pain, the deeper the hurts, the stronger you have the opportunity to be able to build up out of that. And we also found that meaning and relevance in our lives have something to do with that the distance between the lowest depths and the highest highs of life. And so the people that never face any challenges, the people that never face any grit, the people that never have any pain, that awakens them, as Lewis would say, as a megaphone to rouse a deaf world. we never really wake up to that we're hey, we're really alive. And it's only the pain that shows us that we're alive.
Right. So we need to kind of like embrace that as part of the process, because a lot of people, they, kind of fear that in their mind. They are so scared to go out of their comfort zone. They feel like they could fail, and they fail even before they begin. So as you mentioned, life starts on the edge of your comfort zone or the edge of safety, right? So where is that border? How do you feel that this is the edge and I have to push forward?
Yeah. So we have to understand that the way that we learned growing up was the same way that we're continuing to learn and expanding our boundaries as we get older. The way that you learn is you realize there's something that you don't know, and you humble yourself to someone that knows better, whether it be a book or a teacher, or a great philosopher. It's in the humility that you realize that there's something you don't know. And so the people that are prideful, they stay within the area that they know, or they invent the things that they don't know. They never approach the unknown. And it's that approach of the unknown, that edge of safety, as you called it, is where life is really lived. It's pushing the boundaries of your comfort, pushing the boundaries of pain, pushing the boundaries of knowledge to learn and to grow, that accelerates our life into a future that we can be proud of and we can live with urgency. Now, the issue that we have is something that Nicholas Nassim Taleb in his book, The Black Swan, talked about, was that we often think it's sort of the averages that make sense. So we see these averages in the stock market, we see these averages
Right.
in the world events, we see these average things that happen, and we commonly think that the world is moved by averages. Things are moved like on a linear line or a curve of some sort that can be easily projected. And what Taleb teaches us in this book, and I write about this extensively in the 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning, is that the really dramatic things that change the world are black swans. They are outliers. They're not on the trajectory. They're not on the Gaussian curve of normalcy. It's the abnormal things, the unknown, unexpected things, the things you would never imagine that would happen, like 9/11, like the Japanese invasion, like the Asian tsunami that happened in our world, that really moved the world. It's not the normal things. And so when we look at normal things, when we think about the things that we're comfortable with, the things that we don't have to use our imagination for, we just use our intellect for, those are the things that suck us into dry, monotonous lives. But when we're able to free our imagination, to think outside the box, not only to think about the unknown things, but the unknowable things in our life, like these disproportionate events that happen in world history. Those are the things that have the sort of this outlier, this 0.001% impact, not only on our own lives, but also on the lives of our children and our grandchildren one day.
Yes, right. So embracing the unknown, again, it's something that we should, treat as part of the process and not be scared of it. And also, I think the most important part for us to become aware here, now, in that present moment. And that's where it actually a challenge for a lot of people with all of this distraction we have, social media, TV, substances, addictions, all of that. And I know you name it sometimes as an enemy. If you pick an enemy, right, around you, what is it that is a manifestation of that evil or something that really like gets your attention out of what's important for you? How can you recognize this? How can you point that out and name it and then make your purpose to defeat that enemy? Is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Very well said. The idea that we're in a world still where smart men, the philosophers or the psychologists or the people that are professors, the learned people, they will tell you to go pick a goal, to find a vision of what you want to see for your life and build the tactics and objectives and the work up to be able to get to that goal. The problem with many men, especially men that are sort of in their 20s and 30s and 40s, is that we've never seen a vision of what we want to see come out of our lives. We don't have the desire to actually do anything. We don't have any goals. We never even met anyone with any goals. And so we don't know what we want. And so what the academics are telling us, the pontificators are telling us, that we have to have a goal. If we don't have a goal, then we really can't move. And so I reject all of that. Now, I'm not an academic. I'm not a pontificator. I'm a doer. I'm an actor. And this is kind of what I shared and our opening comment, the things that I've done. I'm a doer. I fail a lot, but I'm also a doer. And so what I want to argue for, and this is what I argue for in the book, is that if you don't have a vision, let's find an enemy. Let's find one thing, this manifest evil, as you put it, that breaks your heart. What is the one thing in the world that you see out there, whether it's human trafficking, maybe it's the sex site that doesn't respect children, maybe it's the drugs that your in-laws are addicted to, or the alcohol that you can't control but you still ingest. There's these manifest evil things in your life that you see all around you. Pick one. Pick the one that breaks your heart the most. Pick the one that hurts the most people around you that are in the most vulnerable situations, children especially. If you can pick something that attacks children, that's an evil thing. You can somehow, I don't know how this works, but you sort of get a bit of sort of God's help in that process to work and defeat that manifest evil. And by defeating that manifest evil, it'll give you the energy that then you're able to look out and see, oh, here's a vision of something I can see. But you never get to that vision because you've never been exposed to one before. You don't believe there's a vision out there unless you go and act in reality. You actually do something with your life, and fighting the most evil thing you can find is the surest way to find a vision for what you can accomplish in your future. It is a shortcut to finding vision for those people that have never seen a vision of anything that they want to see come out of their lives.
Yeah, it's amazing how this kind of like works counterintuitive. So we focus on something, I would say, bad or negative, right? But at the same time, we see the flip side of it, the silver lining. If we can just make sure that we, like you say, defeat it, or at least make it aware and help ourselves to not be addicted or to not be engaged in certain activities, then we realize that on the other side of it is something more profound, like something that will give us this fulfillment, this sense of aliveness, right? So we need to connect again with our true nature, and everybody has that within themselves, but we are in our modern society are disconnected, and we need to find a way back home, so to speak, to remember who we are truly inside. And to not be too philosophical, but I just like for you to explore more of that idea of right now you mentioned the vision, right? So if you look into thousands years from today and you find that the most valuable reward that you're gonna get, right? How can you purchase it with today's currency, right? How can you right now invest your time, your energy, all in into something that will be worth of having after you're gone? Like you said, if you're gone, nobody will remember you. So how are you trying to spend your time right now? That's the most important part.
Yeah, oh, what a great question. And the part of the book that you referenced there is really important. Let me repeat that because I imagine there's probably someone that is listening to this that should probably write that down. If you want to know the one thing you really need to know in your life is what would the wisest possible person do? And my argument in the book that Anna just alluded to is that the wisest mind looks into the most distant future for the most valuable reward that they can purchase with the currency of the present. Now, I'm going to repeat that. You're once from Anna, you're here twice from me. The wisest mind looks into the most distant future for the most valuable reward that they can purchase with the currency of the present. So all that you have is today. All you have is a hope for tomorrow, and yesterday is already gone. And so if all that you have to offer is today, but you have a vision of what the future is, you have books, you have literature, you have history, you have religions, you have philosophy. All these things point to something that's more valuable in the future. And the man or the woman who's focused on today is focused on themselves. They're focused on today, next week, maybe a pension in 10 years or 20 years. They're focused on themselves, they're focused selfishly. But the person that's free to really live will think about, what would the most valuable future version of myself, what would they want for me to do today? Like what's my future self, the wisest version of myself, what would they tell me to do today?
Yeah.
They're always future oriented. What would my grandkids, what kind of stories would my grandkids want to tell about me today in 50 years or 100 years after I'm gone? we think about the future, and that helps us put the current in perspective, because that's what a wise person would do. But the wisest possible person would go out to the most distant future for the most valuable thing. The wisest mind isn't thinking 100 years. The wisest mind is thinking thousands or 10,000s of years in the future. And so all of a sudden you get into the area of philosophy and religion, and so therefore the wisest mind is thinking about those sorts of things. And not that they're only focused on those things, but that is the why of why they do these things. It is the why the most savage people that tried to assassinate Hitler in 1930s, 1940s Germany's were the pastors and the theologians. It's the why behind the people that tried to free the slaves in the 1700s and 1800s in the United Kingdom, with William Wilberforce specifically. It's the why that drives anyone to pick up a worthy enemy to go defeat, not because you're worthy and you have all the resources that you need. It's because you've got a divine why empowering you and giving you the resources that you don't know where they're going to come from, but you believe the resources will come because the why is bigger than the enemy that you're going to go defeat. It's about the why. If your why is focused on the most distant future for the most valuable reward, and you put that why into place, that reason why you're acting into place, somehow you pick up a little bit of the divine spark that emboldens you and makes you live free and live without restraint and be able to accomplish some things in the real world, like creating organizations and creating jobs and helping people in the real world, but also be able to inspire people that there's a message of hope out there. And I believe, and I'll end with this part, I believe that if a drop of hope exists anywhere, it threatens all threats everywhere. If a drop of hope exists anywhere, it threatens all threats everywhere. So that my hope can come through the camera, through the internet, and invade the hopelessness that someone may have in their lives now. And it will actually wipe away all threats down the horizon, because I'm hopeful enough that change is possible if you just look to the most distant future for the most valuable reward.
Wow, yeah. And I think we need to understand why we're doing everything in life, why behind all of our actions. Because a lot of times people, in that 9 to 5, they in that rat race or something they engage in, they don't even know why they're doing. Because I've done it, because my, I don't know, parents done it, my friends done it. So, but they don't really understand why they continue doing that. And first, when they need to really stop and ask themselves a question, so why should I continue doing that? And everything is around you, showing you what you have so far, how you feel. And if you start taking responsibility for what you created for yourself so far, you have the power to change at any moment of time. And you don't have to attach yourself to that identity of that role that you played in the past. You're not that, you're bigger than that. Once you see the connection to a bigger, I would say, higher mind, and you are part of a picture, a puzzle, but very uniquely designed one, and you should find your unique strength, abilities, and skills in order to step into that potential, in order to find and truly embrace that and serve people being that. You are only can be yourself. You can't pretend to be somebody else and be as powerful. So why can't we just be who we are?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's well spoken. I think you said it all right there. That was beautiful, Anna. The idea that the why is the big driver, gets us down to this point. If you sort of follow it all philosophically, it's not what you do, it's why you do it that counts. It's not what you do, it's why you do it that counts. So let me give you an example out of Chesterton from 100 years ago, the great British writer. He said that you look at a man going into war, and one person would look at that man and they would say, okay, this man is going into war to kill these people. Like, that's a bad act to kill these people. He doesn't know these people. He's just going to kill them. He's going to leave mothers without sons. He's going to do that. And then another person is going to look at, no, it's a heroic thing because he's defending those he loves. There's two. It's the same act. It's the same act, but there's two different whys behind it. And finally, Chesterton says that the proper reason to go to war is not because you hate those in front of you, but it's because you love those who are behind you. And so it's your why that determines your future, not your what. We tend to think in what we see and the words that we hear, and words do count, actions matter, because those are the only ways you can translate what's in your mind out into the world. But we also need to realize it's the why, it's the purpose behind that that determines whether or not you're acting out of love or out of hate, that you're acting out of pride or selfishness, or you're working out of generosity. The person who works to get famous on YouTube is not the same quality person, although they may put out the same videos, as the type of person that's just on YouTube to try to help other people. Those are two different people, and they may look the same, the videos and the scripts may be the same, but you can tell over time what the intent is, what the motive is, and it's the motive, it's the intent, it's that grand why behind what you do that'll flesh out your life as either a true life or a false life. And a true life is one that comes forth in light-laden beauty that expands and amalgamates the world around them to consolidate on that most distant future. And this is how we bring meaning into our life. Meaning is defined about the durability, the indestructibility of the direction, of the purpose of the life. Your life is found, and your meaning is found not in the meaning yourself, but by what your life is pointed at. It's the directionality, it's the purpose, it's the focal point of your life that determines the meaning of life, not your actions.
Yes, the intention is important. So we have to really be clear of what our intentions on everything that we do. What is the ultimate goal that we're trying to achieve, or how we see the vision unfolding as the greatest reward that we just mentioned.
Yes.
But also we have to be mindful of how we interact with other people. We have to be kind, compassionate, and it all starts with loving yourself, with really reconnecting with your true self and seeing it, not really like resisting or trying to judge yourself, but really embrace everything that you've been through, all your past, and see that you are not that identity and you are more than that, and you have all that potential within yourself, and now you're giving yourself that opportunity to become who you were born to be. If we exist, we're here for a reason. There are no mistakes, and we need to understand that our self-worth is innate. We don't need to validate it to prove that we're worthy to anybody outside of ourselves. It's just, innately ours, and we already know that. And now, knowing that, we just need to move forward with what are we here to give. And you mentioned also, first you need to give in order to receive something substantial. And if you can just elaborate on that principle for people to understand.
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one. The idea that you must give to get is something that is woven into the fabric of every great religion and also every great piece of literature that I'm aware of. The idea that you can never have a shade from a tree or fruit from a tree unless you first give away that seed into the ground to let it die before it sprouts up. The idea that you can never become competent at anything unless you give away your budding talent to be able to be practiced and cultivated into something that can become mastery one day. The idea that you can never love another person unless you give that person your life. And only giving your life can you ever really have a life yourself. That these sorts of thoughts are woven into the fabric of reality. Like there's a reason why all the great religions, all the great philosophies, all the great stories of love, each resound their different flavors of these same motifs. It's because they're true. They are true. You can never live unless you first give away your life. And you find this as proofs in different areas of your life. You think about something like the law of reciprocity. So if you do me a favor, I'm more likely to do you a favor. Even kids know that. Even small children that haven't been to school yet know that if you share your chips with me, maybe she'll share her candy with you. This is the law of reciprocity. It's giving, but not necessarily to get back, but to realize that the only way to keeping anything is to give itself. C.S. Lewis, I talk about these British writers a lot. C.S. Lewis put it this way, that nothing that you have not given away will ever really be yours. Nothing that you have not given away will ever really be yours. It's the act of the investor who his money is getting eaten up by inflation, that unless he gives it away to an entrepreneur that can invest that at a rate higher than inflation, unless he takes that risk of giving the money over, he'll never receive income and he'll lose everything to inflation. It's true whether in business or in life, with children, with adults, with agriculture. It's true with love. And what's true across multiple domains like this is true kind of with a capital T truth, that you'll never get anything, you'll never keep anything unless you first give it away. And it's the most paradoxical thing that you can imagine, that you must give in order to get. You must give your life in order to actually live a life.
Yes, definitely. And we just need to also be mindful that every one of us going through our own journey in life, and sometimes our interaction really like helps us to reflect back to us what we need to learn about ourselves as well, because we're all in it together in one way or another. Like I said, nothing is a mistake. If you meant to, let's say, interact with certain people or engage in that business, something that you will learn from it. If we look from the perspective that it's always benefiting me, I'm always winning, right? No matter what, no matter how it seems, but usually we see it in retrospective that I know what happened, I know what I learned. But if we are going in with that understanding, with that perception, it would be easier for us to go through challenges. We would be
Yes.
like water, right? We will be fluid and flexible and we wouldn't be that rigid. And that's how I feel we should really start going through those experiences, don't you think?
Yeah, I love that. I actually read a little bit of that in the Tao Te Ching this morning. The idea of the Tao is nothingness, but it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's you can't sense it, but it's also pervasive. It's there at the beginning and also be there at the end. This idea that there's something that you can't sense, but is also controlling the situation. I think about that in terms of the concept of awareness and what you give your attention to. All these come in the idea that you must sacrifice something in order to get something out of life. In fact, whenever you're supposed to sacrifice something, we're supposed to give something up that you won't really want to keep very badly, and you don't
Yeah.
do that. That sacrifice, that false sacrifice, becomes a curse. And so, whenever I'm supposed to give love in order to be loved, and I never give the love, I only give like. I only kind of like the person a little bit, but I don't really love with my whole life. I'm not willing to sacrifice anything for that other person. It becomes sort of a false relationship, and it becomes a curse on me because I never really truly love that person without sacrificing something for them. But your attention is the same way. You're right. We're here in a two-person conversation, and I know there's a number of other people that'll be watching this at the same time, but I'm giving you my full attention. I'm looking at you. I'm listening to your words. I'm taking it in. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to reply about, but I'm giving you my attention. And that requires me to sacrifice everything else in the world right now so that I can focus on you and what your message is, Anna, and what you're telling me. But I never can give you my full attention unless I'm willing to sacrifice everything else. But only way for me to expect attention back from you whenever I'm speaking is that if I'm willing to sacrifice everything while you're speaking, to hear you and to consider what you're saying and absorb it and to think about it and let it apply to my life. This is the way that communication and relationships are built, is through the sacrifice of attention of everything else to the one person that we're communicating with at the same time. This is the only way to live a true life. This is the only way to learn. This is the only way to grow. It's also the only one way to realize that there's something more out there rather than the things that we can see all around us. We have to sacrifice the things that we have around us in order to embrace the future of growth and learning. And this is really the way that we have to move forward in your life. It's also about, people often ask, well, how do you get, like, you talked about that sort of this
Yeah.
nothingness that's around us. The way that you get things in the world, we often think it's sort of about the actions. Now, this is my second attack on the idea of actions. We do have to act, right? The first one, the
Yes.
first attack was talking about the why and the reason and the intent through which you live. But the second thing I'm going to talk about is this idea of awareness and attention to the future state, the state that you wish to see. So if I wish to see, okay, so I've got this book that's launching, and this will air the week that it's launching, when I basically have sold no books yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I I sat in my office this morning and I thought about what would it be like if I sold 100,000 books in the first month, which is unheard of. Most people
Mm.
sold, 200 or 300 books. What would be different about my life if I sold 100,000 books in a month? Not because of me, not because I'm like a good marketer or
Yeah.
anything, but just because it touched a handful of people and they were able to propagate these ideas out in the culture. They were giving away books and people were embracing the ideas. What would that change? How would I speak with people? How would I carry myself? How would I set my
Mm-hmm.
priorities? What meetings would I take? What meetings wouldn't I take? And I decided this morning when I'm sitting on my couch, well, this is how I would act. And so if I'm able to act in that way as if it's already done, that's a key phrase.
Mm.
Act as if it's already done
Yeah.
in the future. The reality that I see around me, which is not a reality in fact, the things that I think I see around me will begin to mold themselves and fashion themselves around my awareness by my projection of what really is. Um, and my reality begins to change by my mental picture of what I believe will happen as if it's already done. The religions will talk about it in terms of faith. This is what the act of
Mm.
faith is. You go back into the African American churches. What they say is, I'm going to praise God like it's already done. Like I'm going
Yeah.
to go ahead. I'm going to make a sacrifice. I'm going to thank someone that has the power to make everything that I want happen. But I'm going to go and give him the thanks in advance, like he's already done it, and expect it to happen. There's a little bit there's a little bit of truth in that. In fact, there's a lot of truth in that, as living
Mm.
as if what you desire is already come to fulfillment, and you become that person that's already living in the fulfillment of your vision and your desire and your dreams.
Definitely. And I believe there is a lot of truth to that. And that's why we have to understand that the power is in present moment. Everything that you want in life, you have to really, like you said, like embody that you are that person, vibrate at a certain energy as if you already live in that. And how you think you're gonna feel is in your imagination. You can just start really seeing that picture and feel within your body and emanate that energy and start living it. And like you said, your reality will shape and mold itself to what you're expecting it to be, right? So you are the one commanding, in a way, the way you wanted to see your reality and how you want to live. So, but you have to say it as in present tense. I am doing this, I am living that, and so on. And I think this is very powerful. And those, sometimes they call like visualization, or like certain like exercises that people can do. Sometimes you can reflect it in your journal if you're about like free writing and all of that. I think that helps to bring that picture in and become more solid in a way, like crystallize it, you know.
Yes.
But it's something that all of us has access to, and we can start experimenting. I always say, don't take my word for it, just do it, like see for yourself, right? You can really be motivated by listening to others, but you have to act on it and you have to see if it works for you. And that's the only way, is to experience that.
Yes, yes, and your imagination has to be as vivid as possible. You have to feel the textures on the bed sheets that you would buy if you were that type of person. You would have to feel and smell the aromas of the chefs in the kitchen cooking what you want. You have to feel the blades of grass or the sand in between your toes, so that beach that you eventually want to be able to travel to. It has to be as vivid as possible, and you have to let it soak up your imagination. But then whenever you wake up, you have to act as if it's already done. You have to be the type of person
Yeah.
that acts, that takes action like you're the type of person that already has that. And that's what begins to fulfill your destiny and what you want to see. It's about having a little bit of faith, a little bit of hope, and then also this unstoppable determination that whatever you envision is destined to become reality in the real world, and that your mind is more real than the natural world that you see around you, because your mind is connected to your heart and what you love and why you do it. That drives your mind if you're the rightly aimed person, and that you'll be able to effectuate that out into reality.
Definitely. And I'm so glad we touch upon all those principles. And as we close today, I want to ask you the most important question. What is your definition of living the life of meaning?
So to live a life of meaning, let me give you my
Yes.
understanding of meaning for me personally. This is a very personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I realized, as we first spoke about today, that comfort is probably the biggest enemy of men, and even for women who have men that they love, right? Every woman has a
Yes.
father or a husband or a son or a nephew that they love, but they know that they're underperforming. And I believe I'm someone that's done a lot of research in this area. I've read over 1,000 books in this area. I've spoken to over 100 of the most competent people alive about this, many of them in this very room. And
Mm.
what I discovered was, I believe it's the comfort, it's that abandonment of pain, that disdain for the unknowingness. It's this idea to reject unease and reject awkwardness that's holding people back. And and so I suspect that most men that are watching, even the women that are watching who love a man who's underperforming, are realizing this, that those men are being held back by comfort, and they need
Mm.
to meet their potential of what they could possibly do. That vision that maybe someone
Yes.
else, or at least their future person, their future self has for them today. And so my goal is that, in my meaning in this endeavor is, I want to rip away the comfort now enslaving your potential. I want to rip
Mm.
away the comfort now enslaving your potential. And for those men, they want to see their potential arise and come forth in their life and really like manifest in their lives. But there's something that's holding them back. All the success that they were promised, all the promises that their mothers and the people growing up told them that they could accomplish, all that just hasn't come to
Yeah.
fruition. They're wondering why life isn't any easier. But here's the benefit. What they want, to have this potential emerge as something in the concrete world, and what I want, to rip away the comfort enslaving their potential, is the same want. It's the same thing from
Mm.
two different directions. And so, because your goal and my goal are precisely the same thing, we can work together through this, and find the pathway, which I believe I discovered in the 9 steps to build a life of meaning, and I've written down in depth about how to do this. We can lead our lives together out of this meaninglessness, out of this monotony, out of this mediocrity, out of this life of comfort, into a future of excitement, a future of adventure, and a future that builds something that's relevant. And relevance is built on the indestructibility of the pursuit. That's what relevance
Mm-hmm.
is. It's the indestructibility of the pursuit of that most distant future, most valued reward that you can
Right.
act in today. And that's where we come. And so that's just a personal, kind of a personal testimony of what I see as meaning in my life right now, is trying to rip away that comfort and enslaving their potential, the potential of so many men.
Mm.
And I want to show them, not from the perspective of an academic, but from the perspective of someone who's actually out there in the real world doing these things.
Wow, I'm so glad we had a conversation. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. And for those who would like to connect with you online and find more about the book and how they can purchase it, where they should go.
Well, the best place to go is rickwalker.com, rickwalker.com. If you want something that's free and that just sort of drips to you, I have a newsletter that you can sign up for free. Just enter your email address. About every other week, I'll email you a newsletter. I'll give you 3 really cool quotes, like these quotes I've been dropping all along. So they're easy to commit to memory. I'll give you 2 videos. One will be a teaching video generally, and one will be an interview video with a high potential person or high impact person in the world. And then I'll give you either one essay, or I will give you one questioning process to dive deep into what's happening within your soul. That's the free thing on the website. Then also, if you go to my website, you'll be able to click over to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, wherever you buy your books, and you'll be able to order not only an ebook, Kindle version, but also a paperback, hardback, and I also should have the audiobook available around July 5th. And so hopefully you'll be able to purchase any or all of those. But then go to my website, rickwalker.com. I'm going to give you a variety of tools. These are real world downloadable tools like the 4-point action loop, how to break bad habits and embrace new habits, the 10 urgency accelerators, how to get some momentum in your life. And even have some things about how to live freer and be more strategic with your life. So those are all downloadables that are free on my website as well.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy your day.
And I thank you so much for having me. I sure appreciate it. I very much enjoyed our conversation.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.